Have you ever wondered how one of the most respected and feared witches in the wizarding world became the legendary professor we know today? Today, we'll delve into the extraordinary life of Minerva McGonagall, from her early years as a young Scottish witch to her rise to become Headmistress of Hogwarts. This is a story of forbidden love, unimaginable sacrifices, epic battles, and a will that defied even Voldemort himself. Prepare to uncover secrets that change the course of magical history forever. Before we begin this incredible journey, if you're as passionate about the wizarding world as I am, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. We're almost reaching our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and your support is crucial. And tell me in the comments, which city are you watching this video from? Let's form our own community of wizarding world fans. Our story begins on October 4th, 1935, in the remote and wild Scottish Highlands of Caithness. It was in this dramatic setting that Minerva McGonagall was born, destined to become one of the most important figures in magical history. But her origins could not be more complex and painful. Robert McGonagall Jr. was a Muggle Presbyterian minister, a man of unwavering faith and a kind heart who served a small rural congregation. He firmly believed in human kindness and dedicated his life to helping others. What Robert never imagined was that his wife harbored a secret that challenged everything he believed about reality. Isabel Ross McGonagall had made the ultimate sacrifice a witch could make, abandoning her world completely for love. She came from an old and respected magical family, was especially talented in transfiguration and charms, and had a bright future in the wizarding world. But when she fell in love with Robert during her vacation in the Muggle world, she faced an impossible choice. Isabel's decision was radical and devastating. She hid her oak wand and unicorn hair in a locked box in the attic, promised herself never to use magic again, and learned to live as an exemplary minister's wife. She cooked without magic, cleaned the house by hand, and played the perfect role of the devoted Muggle wife. But when Minerva was born, the signs became undeniable. The baby displayed powerful magic from her first months. Objects moved mysteriously when she cried. Garden flowers bloomed magnificently out of season when she smiled, and a soft, comforting light emanated from the crib during the darkest, stormiest nights. Isabel lived in constant terror. Each magical manifestation of her daughters was a carefully constructed threat to her life. She developed increasingly elaborate explanations, air currents for moving objects, natural coincidences for blooming flowers, reflections of moonlight for the mysterious light. At night, when Robert slept soundly, Isabel would climb to the attic in tears, clutching her forgotten wand and mourning all she had lost. During these years, Minerva grew up feeling profoundly different. She was exceptionally intelligent, observant beyond her years, and possessed a keen intuition that made her aware of the unspoken tensions at home. She noticed her mother's worried looks, the urgent whispers between her parents, and felt an inexplicable energy coursing through her veins that distinguished her from all the other children in the village. The moment that would change everything arrived on the cold, foggy morning of Minerva's 11th birthday. Isabel was making oatmeal when she heard the sound that made her freeze in terror, the distinctive, persistent beating of owl wings against the kitchen window. When she turned, she saw a large brown imperial owl perched on the windowsill, clutching a thick, yellowed envelope. Isabel's heart leapt as she immediately recognized the distinctive red seal, the ornate Hogwarts crest of lion, eagle, badger, and serpent. The envelope was addressed in elegant emerald green ink. Miss M. McGonagall, the smallest back room, Parsonage, Caithness, Scotland. For several minutes, Isabel simply held the letter, her hands shaking violently, vividly remembering when she had received her own letter decades earlier. Back then, it had been pure joy and anticipation. Now that same letter represented the inevitable end to her carefully constructed life of secrets and lies. When Minerva walked into the kitchen and saw her mother with tears streaming down her face, clutching a mysterious letter, she instinctively knew something monumental was happening. The conversation that followed would forever change Minerva's understanding of herself and the world. Isabel began delicately, explaining about magic, about witches and wizards, about a hidden world that existed parallel to the Muggle world. Minerva listened in absolute silence, her green eyes widening as pieces of a complex puzzle she had been unconsciously assembling all her life finally began to fit together perfectly. The scariest part was yet to come: telling Robert. Isabel spent agonizing hours preparing her words, trying to find a way to explain 11 years of lies and deceit to the man she loved more than life itself. When Robert returned from his pastoral visits late that afternoon, he immediately sensed the palpable tension in the air. Robert listened in growing silence and deep shock as his wife revealed her true magical nature, explained the supernatural events that had marked Minerva's early life, and finally produced her wand, conjuring a soft, golden light that danced gracefully between her fingers as irrefutable proof of the impossible reality she was revealing. Robert's initial reaction was one of utter disbelief and profound disorientation. As a man of solid faith, he had built his understanding of the world on foundations that now seemed to have been completely shaken. But Robert McGonagall was fundamentally a man of infinite love and genuine compassion. After the initial devastating shock, he looked at his wife, who had sacrificed an entire world for his sake, and at his daughter, whose eyes shone with cautious but intense hope, and felt his heart expand to accommodate this new and extraordinary reality. The trip to Diagon Alley to buy Minerva's school supplies was a life-changing experience for the entire McGonagall family. Robert, dressed in his Sunday best and trying desperately not to appear completely lost and disoriented, bravely accompanied his wife and daughter through the leaky cauldron. When Isabel touched the specific sequence of bricks on the back wall, and the secret passage majestically opened, revealing Britain's most famous and bustling wizarding street, Robert's eyes widened in utter astonishment. Diagon Alley in the 1940s was a place of unimaginable wonder and profound mystery, with shops pressed together like jagged teeth, their windows glowing brightly with objects that defied all known Muggle logic. Minerva walked between her parents, her green eyes frantically trying to take in everything simultaneously: bronze cauldrons that stirred on their own, leather-bound books that struggled energetically on their shelves, fine broomsticks that floated gently in the air like feathers. For a girl who had spent her entire life feeling profoundly different and utterly out of place, Diagon Alley was like finally, for the first time, truly arriving home. The visit to Ollivander's shop was particularly memorable and meaningful. Garrick Ollivander, already a seasoned man with decades of wand-making knowledge, greeted the family with barely concealed curiosity and piercing eyes that seemed to see right through them. "Isabel Ross," he murmured thoughtfully, his eyes narrowing as he studied Minerva's mother carefully. "Oaken unicorn hair, 9 3/4 inches, reasonably flexible. Excellent for transfiguration. Long time no see." Isabel sighed deeply, fondly remembering when she had bought her first wand in this very wizarding shop decades before. For Minerva, the meticulous process of choosing a wand was truly magical in the most literal and powerful sense of the word. She carefully tried wand after wand, each reacting completely differently and uniquely to her personal touch. Some warmed comfortably in her hands, others remained coldly unresponsive and rejected her magic. One even produced stunning golden sparks that made Ollivander smile approvingly. But when he finally placed a specific wand of fur and dragon hair, measuring 9.5 inches, into her small but determined hands, Minerva felt an instant, powerful, and utterly electrifying connection. The wand vibrated gently but intensely in her hand, recognizing its new owner, and a radiant, warm, golden light completely bathed the entire ancient shop. "Very interesting indeed," Ollivander murmured with evident satisfaction, watching the extraordinary magical reaction closely. Fur and dragon hair, a truly special combination for wizards of high purpose, exceptional moral strength, and unwavering determination. "This wand will serve you well, should you prove yourself completely worthy of it over the years." He wrapped the wand carefully, his eyes meeting Minerva's with an intensity that made her feel he was seeing straight into her soul and assessing her true character. Minerva's arrival at Hogwarts in September 1947 marked the definitive beginning of an extraordinary journey that would transform her completely. When the majestic castle finally appeared on the distant horizon, she felt her breath literally taken away by the sheer magnificence. Even in her mother's most vivid and detailed descriptions, she had never been able to truly imagine the castle's imposing majesty and otherworldly grandeur. The moment of the sorting was particularly dramatic and revealing. When her name was called clearly in the silent Great Hall, Minerva McGonagall's heart began to pound so hard and fast that she was absolutely certain the entire hall could hear it echoing. The sorting hat sat heavy and impressive on her head, and she could distinctly feel an ancient, wise, and penetrating presence, meticulously examining her deepest thoughts, most precious memories, and fundamental personality traits. "Very interesting indeed," murmured a knowledgeable and experienced voice directly into his mind. "I see a lot of courage here, definitely real, genuine courage. Ambition too, but carefully tempered by a very strong moral sense and solid principles. Truly impressive intelligence and an insatiable thirst for knowledge that would easily rival the best Ravenclaws I've ever known." The hat paused for a long, thoughtful moment, carefully weighing his options. "But there's something even more important here," he continued thoughtfully, "an absolutely fierce loyalty and an unwavering determination to protect others, even at significant cost to yourself. Yes, now I know exactly where you truly belong." 5.5 minutes passed in intense deliberation, an exceptionally long time. Finally, the hat shouted with absolute conviction, "Gryffindor." During her transformative first years at Hogwarts, Minerva quickly established herself as one of the brightest and most dedicated students of her generation. Her natural aptitude for transfiguration was truly extraordinary, impressing even veteran professors with decades of teaching experience. Her first successful transformation was particularly memorable. While her colleagues struggled desperately to produce even the most basic and simple changes, Minerva achieved a near-perfect transformation of an ordinary match into a functional needle in only her third serious attempt. The resulting needle was silver, perfectly sharp and fully functional for actual sewing. The original Professor McGonagall observed this impressive display, raised an eyebrow in evident approval, a sign of recognition Minerva would learn to value greatly over the years, and awarded Gryffindor 5 valuable points. During her challenging first year, Minerva also formed lasting friendships that would define much of her Hogwarts experience. Poppy Pomfrey became her best friend and closest confidant, sharing not only a dormitory in Gryffindor Tower, but also a genuine and deep passion for helping others in need. From her earliest years at Hogwarts, Minerva McGonagall excelled in transfiguration. Her sharp intelligence and iron discipline quickly placed her among the most talented students of her generation. But Minerva didn't just want to be good. She wanted to deeply understand the magic that shaped the essence of things, to their most extreme limits. It was this determination that drove her to pursue one of the wizarding world's rarest and most dangerous achievements, the Animagus transformation. The process of becoming an Animagus is legendary for its difficulty and the risks involved. It requires not only vast theoretical knowledge, but also patience, courage, and impressive control over body and mind. Many wizards never even dare to attempt it. Others spend their lives studying without ever completing it. Minerva, however, possessed something that went beyond talent, an unbreakable willpower. Years of study and careful practice paid off. At a young age, Minerva McGonagall achieved the extraordinary feat of becoming a registered Animagus, fulfilling all legal requirements imposed by the Ministry of Magic. Minerva has always kept her ability officially recognized and registered. His Animagus form was a perfect reflection of his personality, a tabby elegant in appearance, with symmetrical silver and dark stripes. The piercing, intense green eyes remained identical in both forms, creating a striking visual connection between the witch and the feline. The markings around the eyes resembled the rectangular glasses she would wear in her adult life, a detail so unique that it made her Animagus form unmistakable. For Minerva, transforming into a cat wasn't just a testament to her magical power. It was a new way of perceiving the world. As a feline, her senses were almost superhumanly heightened. She could hear distant conversations, identify subtle scents, and see through darkness with astonishing clarity. She could also move with a silent grace that defied detection. Throughout her career at Hogwarts, Minerva used this ability practically and often strategically. In her classroom, she served as a living example of what was possible with dedication to transfiguration. Outside of it, at crucial moments, her cat form allowed her to observe unnoticed and act in defense of her students and her school. Minerva McGonagall's Animagus transformation became an inseparable part of her identity. It was proof that talent, discipline, and courage could overcome even the most extreme limits of magic. More than a power, it was a symbol of who she was, a witch who defied the impossible with elegance, intelligence, and strength of spirit. During her transformative final year at Hogwarts, Minerva faced a choice that painfully echoed the impossible dilemma her mother had faced decades earlier. During a summer vacation in her Highland hometown, she fell hopelessly and completely in love with Dougal McGregor, a remarkable young muggle who was the son of respected local farmers. Dougal was everything any woman could want in a partner: intelligent without being arrogant, kind without being naive, hard-working without being obsessive, and possessing a sense of humor that made Minerva laugh like she had never laughed before. He knew every secret mountain trail, every ancient Highland legend, and had simple but genuine dreams of improving the family farm and creating a happy, stable life. Most importantly, Dougal loved Minerva with a total and unconditional devotion that made her feel completely accepted and valued for who she was. Or at least, for who he thought she was. He knew nothing about magic, Hogwarts, or the extraordinary world that had become the center of Minerva's life. Their romance blossomed throughout the summer, with long walks in the mountains, secret picnics, and endless conversations about dreams, hopes, and plans for the future. When Dougal finally proposed on a starry August night, offering her a simple but loving life in the Highlands, Minerva faced the most difficult decision of her young life. On the one hand, there was Dougal and the promise of genuine domestic bliss, a life of unconditional love and pastoral simplicity that echoed exactly what his mother had chosen decades before. On the other hand, there was the wizarding world, her extraordinary abilities, and a bright future as one of the most talented witches of her generation. Minerva's decision completely revealed the true character that would define her for the rest of her life. After agonizing nights of deep reflection and silent tears, she chose magic. But unlike her mother, who had abandoned the magical world for love, Minerva chose to abandon love for the magical world. The letter she wrote to Dougal was one of the most painful she would ever write in her entire life. Unable to reveal the true magical reason behind her decision due to the strictly enforced statute of secrecy, she fabricated a convincing excuse about irreconcilable differences and fundamental incompatibilities that made marriage impossible. This necessary but devastating lie effectively protected the Statute of Secrecy, but it completely broke two hearts in the process. Dougal never truly understood why the woman he loved deeply, and who seemed to love him equally, had rejected him so suddenly and without satisfactory explanation. Minerva carried this specific pain, lingering guilt and occasional regret for the rest of her life, always wondering how things could have been different. Heartbroken but with unshakable resolve, strengthened by her painful choice, Minerva accepted a prestigious position at the Ministry of Magic. Her 2 years at the Department of Magical Law Enforcement were intense, eye-opening, and instrumental in shaping her sophisticated understanding of the magical world and its complex interactions with the Muggle world. Working directly with cases involving the misuse of magic, serious violations of the Statute of Secrecy, and diverse and complex magical crimes, Minerva gained a unique and valuable perspective on the practical difficulties of keeping separate two worlds that often overlapped in dangerous and unpredictable ways. During her revelatory time at the ministry, she also met Elphinstone Urquhart, a respected and competent employee of the Department of Magical Games and Sports. Elphinstone was a fundamentally kind, intellectually stimulating, and emotionally understanding man who gradually earned Minerva's professional respect and eventually genuine affection through his patience, wisdom, and unconditional support. He fully understood her passion for education and justice, respected her professional ambitions without trying to limit them, and fully supported her eventual decision to accept Dumbledore's persistent and attractive invitation to return to Hogwarts as a teacher. In 1956, at the age of 21, Minerva McGonagall returned to Hogwarts, this time as the youngest Transfiguration teacher in the school's recorded history. Her appointment definitively marked the beginning of a golden age for teaching this notoriously complex and challenging subject. Minerva brought to her classrooms not only deep and up-to-date theoretical knowledge, but also a practical, rigorous, and innovative pedagogical approach that consistently challenged her students to reach and surpass their full potential. She quickly established a formidable reputation as a teacher who was simultaneously demanding and fair, who never accepted less than genuine excellence from her students, but who also provided the support and guidance necessary for them to achieve those high standards. Her teaching methods were truly revolutionary for their time and set new standards for magical education. Minerva firmly believed that transfiguration was not merely about superficially transforming objects, but rather about understanding and manipulating the fundamental nature of magical reality at its deepest, most essential levels. Voldemort's gradual but ominous rise during the 1960s brought monumental new challenges and dangerous responsibilities to Minerva. Dumbledore, recognizing with growing clarity the mortal threat the self-proclaimed Dark Lord posed to the entire wizarding world, began carefully building a secret and organized resistance. Minerva was one of the first people recruited into the Order of the Phoenix, the clandestine and courageous organization dedicated specifically to combating Voldemort and his fanatical followers, known as Death Eaters. Her active participation in the Order revealed a completely new facet of her personality that few of her colleagues knew: her formidable and natural ability as a warrior and strategist. During the dark and dangerous years of the First Wizarding War, Minerva operated skillfully in the shadows of magical society, using her unique abilities as a registered Animagus for extremely dangerous espionage, reconnaissance, and intelligence-gathering missions. Her feline form allowed her to move completely unnoticed through London and other urban areas controlled by the Death Eaters, gathering vital information critical to the Order's war effort. She personally participated in several important and decisive battles against the forces of darkness, always demonstrating exactly the same impressive courage, iron determination and natural leadership that she had shown since her earliest days as a courageous Gryffindor student. It was during this extremely turbulent and dangerous period of the war that Minerva finally married Elphinstone Urquhart in a small, intimate, and deeply emotional ceremony. The couple had maintained a long, respectful, and gradually deepening relationship for many years, and the growing instability and uncertainty of the wizarding world led them to realize that they should no longer indefinitely postpone their personal happiness. The wedding was held in a deliberately small and low-key ceremony, with only a few of their closest and dearest friends in attendance, including Albus Dumbledore, who had the special honor of personally officiating the magical ceremony. Unfortunately, Minerva's genuine and well-deserved happiness would be tragically short-lived. Just 3 years after their marriage, during what should have been a period of increasing joy and stability, Elphinstone was brutally attacked by an extremely aggressive, venomous tentacle during a routine work trip for the Department of Magical Games and Sports. Despite the heroic and tireless best efforts of St. Mungo's most experienced healers, including experimentation with rare antidotes and experimental treatments, Elphinstone died slowly and painfully from severe and progressive complications from the venomous bite. The devastating loss of Elphinstone, the man who had become not only her husband, but also her best friend and closest confidant, emotionally shattered Minerva and left her once again completely alone in the world. This profound and unexpected personal tragedy significantly deepened his already intense dedication to Hogwarts and its students, who gradually became his surrogate family and primary source of purpose and meaning in life. The 1970s brought new and unique challenges to Hogwarts, and specifically to Minerva as head of Gryffindor House. The school welcomed a particularly special and talented generation of students who would become absolutely crucial in the final fight against Voldemort. James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, the group that would become known as the Marauders. Minerva, in her vital role as head of Gryffindor House, played a fundamental and formative role in the development of these complex and talented young wizards, particularly James Potter, whose impressive natural talent was unfortunately accompanied by significant youthful arrogance and tendencies toward mischief. James Potter was, in many ways, a student who simultaneously frustrated and inspired Minerva. His talent for transfiguration was genuinely exceptional, rivaling the best student she had ever taught. But his tendency toward exhibitionism and his initial arrogance toward less talented peers required constant correction and careful moral guidance. Lily Evans's arrival at Hogwarts also brought Minerva special joy and professional pride. The young Muggle-born witch immediately demonstrated a truly exceptional aptitude for transfiguration, not only rivaling, but sometimes surpassing the best students Minerva had ever taught in her decades-long career. Lily quickly became one of the professor's absolute favorites, not only for her impressive magical talent, but more fundamentally for her genuine natural kindness, unwavering moral integrity, and keen sense of justice that perfectly echoed Minerva's own deepest values. Voldemort's official return in 1995 placed Minerva in a particularly difficult and politically dangerous position. The Ministry of Magic, under the stubborn and denialist leadership of Cornelius Fudge, categorically and publicly denied that the Dark Lord had returned, leading to a systematic and vicious campaign of discrediting Dumbledore and Harry Potter. Minerva found herself painfully torn between her absolute and unwavering loyalty to the headmaster and her desperate need to protect the school from increasingly aggressive and destructive political interference. Her valuable prior experience at the ministry gave her unique and troubling insights into the obtuse, bureaucratic mindset that was actively preventing an adequate and effective response to the growing and deadly crisis. The arrival of Dolores Umbridge as Hogwarts High Inquisitor definitively marked one of the darkest, most oppressive, and degrading periods in the school's recent history. Minerva watched with growing horror and seething indignation as traditional effective magical education was systematically and deliberately destroyed by a series of authoritarian educational decrees that rigidly prioritized blind political conformity over real, practical, and meaningful learning. Minerva's steadfast and courageous opposition to Umbridge quickly became legendary among students of all houses, who saw in Professor McGonagall an inspiring figure of moral resistance against institutional oppression and educational degradation. Her tense interactions with Umbridge during class inspections became moments of intense drama, where Minerva demonstrated her pedagogical mastery while subtly resisting Umbridge's attempts to control and corrupt her teaching. The final devastating confrontation between Minerva and Umbridge came when the High Inquisitor attempted a cowardly attack on Hagrid during a nighttime ambush. Minerva impulsively rushed to the defense of her beloved colleague and longtime friend. In her heroic rush to protect Hagrid, she was brutally struck by 4 simultaneous stunning spells fired by corrupt auras. The near-fatal attack simultaneously demonstrated her extraordinary personal courage and the increasing brutality of Umbridge's authoritarian regime. Minerva collapsed instantly, her body rigid and immobile, and was immediately transported to St. Mungo's in critical condition. Her recovery was slow, painful, and incomplete, forcing the students of Hogwarts to confront the terrifying possibility of permanently losing one of their most beloved, respected, and fundamental figures. The death of Albus Dumbledore represented the most devastating and disorienting moment in Minerva's professional and personal life. The man who had simultaneously been her inspiring mentor, respected colleague, and closest and most trusted friend, was brutally murdered by Severus Snape, another teacher she had trusted implicitly for years. Snape's apparent betrayal was particularly painful and confusing for Minerva, who had worked side by side with him for decades, always vigorously defending his controversial inclusion on the faculty, despite the lingering suspicions and legitimate concerns of other members of the Order of the Phoenix about his true loyalties and hidden motivations. With Snape installed as a puppet headmaster under Voldemort's direct orders, and the Carrow brothers systematically implementing an educational curriculum based entirely on dark magic, authorized torture, and ideological indoctrination, Minerva faced the most impossible and morally complex challenge of her career, keeping the school running and protecting its innocent students while seemingly cooperating with a regime of absolute terror. This impossible situation demanded one of the most impressive and courageous displays of her moral strength and strategic intelligence, as she risked literally everything, her life, liberty, and career, to secretly keep alive the flame of resistance and hope within the very historic walls of Hogwarts. During this dark and dangerous period, Minerva carefully developed a secret and effective communication network with surviving members of the Order of the Phoenix and other courageous elements of the anti-Voldemort resistance scattered throughout magical Britain. She discreetly used her unique skills as a registered Animagus to relay critical messages, coordinate sensitive resistance activities, and maintain vital connections with the outside world, all the while maintaining a convincing facade of reluctant cooperation with Voldemort's brutal regime. Her private office as deputy director secretly became a safe and secure sanctuary where injured, traumatized, or persecuted students could find medical healing, emotional solace, and moral guidance, all away from the cruel and watchful eyes of the Carrows and their student collaborators. The dramatic and hopeful return of Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger to Hogwarts in May 1998 definitively marked the beginning of the end for Voldemort's reign of terror. Minerva, who had kept hope and resistance alive through the darkest and most challenging months of the occupation, felt a powerful renewal of spirit and determination as she saw her beloved former students courageously return to continue the final fight against darkness. Her instant decision to fully and unconditionally support Harry in his mysterious and urgent mission, even without knowing all the specific details or fully understanding the risks involved, demonstrated the absolute and unshakable trust she had developed in the young wizard she had watched grow, mature, and transform from his first vulnerable days as an 11-year-old boy. The epic Battle of Hogwarts represented the most defining and heroic moment in Minerva McGonagall's extraordinary life. At 62 years of age, a time when many wizards were already considering peaceful retirement, she personally led the desperate defense of the castle with an energy, courage, and determination that deeply inspired students, teachers, and members of the Order of the Phoenix. Her formidable magical abilities, refined and honed over decades of dedicated practice, continuous study, and rigorous teaching, were spectacularly demonstrated in all their stunning glory as she conjured with truly epic mastery entire armies of tables, chairs, suits of armor, and other animated defenses to physically protect the school she loved infinitely more than her own life. The most iconic and memorable moment of the battle came when Minerva shouted with absolute authority, "Hogwarts is under threat! Defend our borders! Do your duty to our school!" Her words resounded through the castle like an inspiring battle cry, galvanizing defenders everywhere to fight with renewed courage and unyielding determination. During the intense fighting, Minerva personally faced some of the most dangerous and experienced Death Eaters, including direct and deadly magical confrontations with veteran dark wizards who had terrorized the wizarding world for decades with their cruelty and power. Her exemplary courage on the most dangerous front line inspired other fighters to fight with renewed determination and restored hope. Her tactical and strategic leadership was also crucial in coordinating an effective and organized defense against enemy forces significantly superior in numbers, resources, and military preparedness. The unforgettable sight of Minerva McGonagall brandishing her powerful wand against absolute darkness quickly became one of the most iconic, inspiring, and symbolically powerful images of the Second Wizarding War. The tragic deaths of so many young and promising students during the brutal battle, including Colin Creevey, Fred Weasley, and other brave students she had lovingly taught, jealously protected, and loved as if they were her own children, left deep and permanent emotional scars on Minerva's naturally maternal soul. As a dedicated educator who had devoted her entire life to the care and development of young minds, she had always seen herself fundamentally as a responsible guardian and protector of her students. Each young life lost during the violence felt like a devastating personal failure and a responsibility she would carry for the rest of her life. Fred Weasley's specific death was particularly devastating and painful for Minerva, as she had watched the Weasley twins grow and develop since their early, mischievous days at Hogwarts, and had secretly admired and respected their creative antics, magical innovation, and indomitable spirit, even while officially disciplining them for their regular infractions of school rules. After Voldemort's final and definitive defeat and the official end of the Second Wizarding War, Minerva faced the truly monumental task of rebuilding Hogwarts, both physically and spiritually and emotionally. The historic castle had suffered extensive and visible physical damage during the fierce battle, with collapsed towers, cracked walls, and fundamental magical systems damaged or destroyed. But the invisible wounds in the traumatized school community were even deeper, more complex, and more challenging to heal. Minerva had to find creative and sensitive ways to properly honor the heroic dead, while simultaneously helping the traumatized survivors move forward constructively and rebuild their disrupted lives with renewed hope and restored purpose. As Hogwarts' official headmistress in the critical post-war period, Minerva took on the overwhelming responsibility of leading magical Britain's foremost school into a new era of peace, healing, and rebuilding. Although the wizarding world was finally free of Voldemort's deadly threat after decades of fear, the complex challenges of institutional reconstruction, social healing, and community reconciliation remained immense and multifaceted. Her vast experience, accumulated wisdom, demonstrated moral strength, and proven natural leadership made her the obvious and unanimous choice to guide Hogwarts through this period of crucial historical transition, setting new precedents for magical education in the 21st century. During her transformative years as headmistress in the post-war period, Minerva worked tirelessly and systematically to restore not only the obvious physical damage to Hogwarts, but also to heal the deep spiritual divisions that the war had created and exacerbated between different groups within the diverse school community. His wise, compassionate, and visionary leadership significantly helped to unite a fragmented and polarized school community, establishing new high standards of inter-house cooperation, mutual understanding, and respect for differences that transcended the ancient and sometimes toxic traditional rivalries that had characterized Hogwarts for centuries. One of his most important and successful initiatives was the implementation of specific and carefully planned programs to promote healing, reconciliation, and unity among all 4 houses at the school. The traditional rivalry between the houses had been dramatically exacerbated during the war, with many Slytherin students unfairly viewed with widespread suspicion due to the deplorable actions of some of their fellow students who became Death Eaters. Minerva, despite her own deep personal pain and devastating losses during the war, implemented specific reconciliation programs that emphasized shared values, common goals, and the fundamental need for unity to ensure that such destructive conflicts never occurred in the future. Minerva McGonagall's lasting legacy extends far beyond her specific and technical contributions to transfiguration or traditional educational practices. She represented a living ideal of absolute personal integrity and professional excellence that served as an inspiring moral beacon for successive generations of witches and wizards who experienced her transformative influence. His extraordinary life convincingly demonstrated that true human greatness comes not simply from raw magical power or impressive technical skills, but fundamentally from the moral courage to consistently stand up for what is right, the dedication and the practical wisdom to use one's unique talents in generous service to others and the common good. Minerva McGonagall's inspiring story is, above all, a powerful demonstration that a single person, when armed with genuine courage, unwavering integrity, and total dedication to high moral principles, can truly transform the world in profound and lasting ways. Her extraordinary journey from a vulnerable young witch, torn painfully between 2 incompatible worlds, to becoming one of the most respected, admired, and influential figures in the modern wizarding world, is a timeless testament to the transformative power of conscious moral choice, unyielding perseverance in the face of overwhelming adversity, and unshakable faith in the human capacity to grow and learn. And now that we've reached the end of this extraordinary and inspiring journey through the remarkable life of Minerva McGonagall, I sincerely hope you've been as inspired and moved as I was by this story of courage, sacrifice, and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. If you enjoyed this detailed and carefully researched content, don't forget to like it, share it with other passionate fans of the wizarding world, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our next exciting magical adventures. In the comments, tell me, what specific aspect of McGonagall's extraordinary life impressed and inspired you most? Was it her courage during the Battle of Hogwarts, her personal sacrifice in choosing magic over love, her unwavering dedication to her students? And what other fascinating character from the world of Harry Potter would you like to see explored in detail in our upcoming videos? Until the next magical adventure, and may the magic be with you always.